So welcome everybody to Maturity Model for Microsoft 365 Practitioners April. We have a special guest with us today as we're discussing security. Liam, do you mind kicking us off with a little introduction?
Yep, sure. Hey everybody, my name's Liam. I live in Winchester, Virginia. I'm clearly from West Virginia with my accent, not from Virginia. But yeah, I focus on Microsoft 365 and Azure, have done for a while. That's literally all I do. I live and dream it, I think, sometimes, maybe nightmares. But I focus heavily on the security side of it. So hopefully we'll have a great conversation today.
So speaking of our conversation today, we're going to give a quick practitioner overview as we might have some new members with us today. We have the optional picture time with together mode. We'll do that introduction to the maturity model, highlight our latest artifacts, and then the bulk of our time will be the monthly discussion around security. So the maturity practitioners for maturity model for Microsoft 365. We are a safe space to hone your pitch, test your thoughts, decide how to promote the maturity model. It is a discussion-based monthly meeting, and this month we are going to be discussing security. So for anyone that would like to put on their camera, would love to take a quick picture. And David will be taking a picture, so count us down, please, David.
Absolutely. We'll give it a moment here for those who want to participate.
Dave, get the good camera out.
All right, yeah. Give me a minute to get my hair done.
That Kodak is not so good anymore. That Instamatic, no, not happening.
The Polaroid, no. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Smile. All right, maybe just a wave for everybody. All right, excellent. Emily, back to you.
Yeah, so much for witness protection. We'll digitize you, don't worry.
I think the best part of this video is where we're all awkwardly waving there while he takes this picture for sure. All right, so for anyone that is joining us for the first time today, we're going to do a quick intro to the maturity model for Microsoft 365. The maturity model for Microsoft 365 aligns the company on what can be done across the platform. So one of the things we focus on is improving the organization. This technology is most successful when we're using it to solve existing challenges. So sometimes you might have challenges like communication and raising transparency and decision making. This might be a good use case for SharePoint communication sites and news. It can also be used to benchmark the company and different departments. So it gives you this rubric to measure your current state and also future state of where you're trying to land with those impacts. And this can be really critical in measuring your growth and tracking ROI. It's also a great tool to share with your stakeholders and decision makers so you have a common language around what you're aiming towards. Some of these competencies can also be softer topics. So things like collaboration and communication can be harder to talk about and to measure. So this Microsoft 365 is a lot more than usage statistics. We're shifting the way people are working and collaborating and solving these real world problems, which the impacts in the maturity model help us understand. It also helps you select the appropriate approach, not one size fits all. So the maturity model is not meant to dictate that the 500 level is best, for example. A smaller company may never need to be at that level. So your company size, culture, goals, and industry will all have impacts on what is the right maturity level for your organization. It also helps us develop organizational, business, and technical roadmaps. So now that we know this current state of where we are in the maturity model, and maybe we've identified a future state, we have a whole series of how-to articles to help you navigate a plan to get there, and helps you enable to lead and support those strategic planning, again, with that senior management. Whenever we're focusing on the business and improving the business, we're including people outside of IT. So using this tool to socialize it across the organization can be very powerful. which helps us align those implementation needs and objectives. So maybe you're at the beginning of your journey, your current state's level 0. You can choose where you want to be when you launch. So maybe you need to start at level 300, for example, for Microsoft 365 to really be impactful. So aligning on these impacts internally allows you to focus those traditional requirements conversations really, again, on those outcome objectives of what is the impact of this technology going to have on your business. Again, it's expanding that discussion of the use of the platform outside of IT. It's not just the technology. So we're also expanding IT's understanding past the systems themselves to those outcome objectives it supports. As you can tell, we feel really strongly about those outcome objectives supporting what you're implementing in Microsoft 365. And lastly, it's that socialization tool. Since majority of your colleagues aren't using Microsoft 365, may not be IT professionals, and don't spend the amount of time we all do understanding this platform. So the maturity model is really like this Cliff Notes version of what is possible. It gives us these useful artifacts to share with our colleagues to increase their understanding, and it's community maintained. So it's helping reduce your individual burden of creating all of these resources for your organization. The maturity model for Microsoft 365 has been evolving with the platform. So this started as the SharePoint maturity model in 2010 by Sadie Van Buren, and Marc Anderson, Simon Doy, Simon Hudson, and myself have been working on expanding it and updating it to match the Microsoft 365. So you can see on the left of the slide, the list of our published competencies. We have a few more open competencies in process, and today we'll be talking specifically around security, whether this should be a competency on its own or something that goes across all of these other published competencies. We also have that series of supporting articles that I mentioned, so principles of search and communication, and then those how-to articles, which we're building for all of the competencies to help you work through the different levels. Speaking of those levels that I've mentioned a couple of different times, it's level 100 through 500. Initial, manage, define, predictable, and optimizing. And as you can see on that far right, these are the keywords that we're using to help us define what fits into each of these levels. We have a common framework across all of our articles of how we structure them. They can be a little bit lengthy, though we're trying to ensure they're consistent in flavor, structure, and style, so you can easily dive into the different competencies and have that consistent understanding of content and how it's structured. So since we last met in April, we have a couple new additions to the maturity model. One of the first is characteristics as data. Simon, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've pulled together? We have Simon with us.
I think Simon and Simon are sitting in the wrong lobby. They're joining us now.
Okay, no problem. I'll give a quick overview. So preparing for this conversation, one of the things we did is we went across all of the different competencies and pulled out the characteristics. So for example, governance is something that goes across all of the different competencies. So we pulled them out and put them into this Excel sheet so we can see where these overlapping Venn diagrams are. This is something that we pulled out for our security conversation today, which you'll also see in our next slides. We also made how to elevate collaboration. So that is our latest how to elevate article that is now live in Microsoft Community Docs. And with that, let's dive into what is security in the maturity model. And can I have Simon kick us off with the rules of engagement? I think I saw you both just join.
You did. Is it Simon D or Simon H? Either.
Maybe you, since you've got us started.
Well, Simon D's here, so why don't you go?
I think Simon H is still in the other lobby. He's coming on. Yes. So when we talk about the maturity model, we're sort of defining through the principles and not what is sort of the best practice. As you know, those best practices change as we learn new things. And we want to talk about the characteristics. What are the outcomes of the end result of what we get, not sort of the process of how we get there. We're trying to keep it sort of agnostic from the technology and very business focused. So we're not tying it to specific Microsoft platforms or features. We are talking about the business outcomes, what is in it for the business. So that's why we're sort of saying, we're not, again, don't forget about the non-technical aspects. What is it that the business needs to achieve and get out of using Microsoft 365. Mr. Hudson,
hello everybody. Sorry about the late arrival. I'm sure that Simon D has explained that we had the wrong link.
So thinking about think about things broadly. Not having specific absolutes. Otherwise, that's kind of made allow you to think sort of out of the box or in a sort of a more of a holistic approach. And of course, please respect other people's ideas, but also challenge them and in a constructive manner. Let's try and include everyone, and so that this works for us all and we all get something out of it.
Thank you. And with that, as promised, we're moving into discussion. So we will stop our recording for today.